This is E&P Reports, a service of Editor and Publisher Magazine. Since 1884, the authoritative voice of news publishing. Greetings, I am Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine, and we're now going to have a tale of two cities. The two cities are Warren, Ohio, and Youngstown, Ohio. And you may be aware that 1 year ago, and a few days ago, 1 year and a few days, July 31st, 2019, the Youngstown Vindicator, after 200 years as a daily newspaper, stopped publishing and was going to create a news desert in Youngstown, Ohio, after 200 years. The family just could not find a buyer for a myriad of reasons. But a neighboring newspaper owned by Ogden Media and in the adjoining county, the Tribune Chronicle, decided to purchase the masthead, purchase the subscription list, and purchase the website, and publish the Vindicator on August 1st of last year. And after a year, it's going really, really well for now these two combined markets. How it was brought to my attention was also interesting because Charles Jarvis, the publisher of both newspapers, sent me a letter. I mean, seriously, actually typed a letter in today's world of PDFs and emails. And I was so touched, just bringing to my attention at Editor and Publisher Magazine the success they've had, how great his team is, and how we might want to be aware of how Youngstown, Ohio local news is thriving thanks to the folks at the Tribune Chronicle. Great story. It's a little choppy because of some internet issues, but I want you to hang through the next 30 minutes as I go one-on-one now and explore the saving of the Vindicator in Youngstown with Charles R. Jarvis, publisher. Charles, it's so great to have you on E&P Reports. Thank you. I see you're in your office today.
I am.
We don't get to see what your living room looks like or your spare bedroom like most of our interviewees, or?
No, I have actually come to work every day through this coronavirus epidemic, and I just feel more comfortable here, especially since I have people in the building I like to be here to manage.
All right, before we get into the story, which is why most people are tuning in, and a fascinating story of how you, I guess, saved a market to have and did not allow it to become a news desert. We're obviously discussing Youngstown. Let's first ask you how it is going out in your region, not just because of COVID-19, but I don't know if you know this, but I had been to the Vindicator in 2004 to do advertiser workshops in my, other business. And I remember the market being very depressed, issues with, manufacturing jobs that had gone away. That whole region, I mean, I'm going to throw a map up if that's okay. That obviously we have half of our listeners are going to be just listeners. They come in through podcasts, but we're also doing this on YouTube. And that region, there's two counties we're discussing, right? One on top of the other is just on that border to Pennsylvania. They call that the Rust Belt. Do they not, sir?
Well, a lot of this part of the Midwest is called the Rust Belt, but we have had that title as well.
Yeah, and so tell us how it's going there. What is the economic condition of the market? How has COVID-19 impacted? I know you're in Warren, correct, which is north of Youngstown. And now we're going to discuss the whole region. But first, give us an overview of the general area.
Well, early in 2019, the longtime manufacturer of Chevrolet products at Lordstown, Ohio, closed. That was in maybe April of 2019. And things were really pretty bleak again. All of a sudden, people were, pretty much panicked that was the stable of our economy. And as it turns out, we were a little optimistic at the time, saying, look, this may be a real opportunity for the area because it's a huge facility down there. Something's got to take place there. The traffic or the transportation highways through there are just amazing. With the short distance to Chicago, a short distance to New York, and a lot of the country can be reached from our area. So we felt like things were, and doggone if they didn't, they got pretty well. Workhorse, a company out of Cincinnati, I believe, picked up the plant at Lordstown and are going to be building electric pickup trucks there.
Really?
And they've announced that. They have, I think, about 20,000 orders. It's going to be probably late 21 or 22 before they start building the first trucks, maybe. But so that has been a pickup. But General Motors stepped up, and they have also put in a new battery plant there. They're putting it in. They're turning the dirt right now and starting to build the building. Huge facility.
Excellent.
TJ Maxx is putting in a national distribution center in the neighborhood. Going to have another 1,000 jobs. So things are really looking up pretty good here. And in fact, they're not calling us the Rust Belt anymore. We're being referred to as Voltage Valley now instead of Steel Valley. Voltage Valley because of the battery plant, because of the electric trucks. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic going on here in the valley right now.
Well, the kudos, first of all, to your economic development people out there. They must be doing an excellent job representing the area. It must be a great workforce then, anxious to get to work. And I know that part of the world, the highway system there is pretty cool. I mean, getting goods in and out of that part of the world, that eastern part of Ohio, is very, very simple. So congratulations, I mean, to the whole community. That's wonderful.
Right. And the other thing up is warehousing. Amazon has a position here now, and so does FedEx and UPS have facilities here. So the location has been a real godsend for us right now in this economy.
The airport that you guys would likely use is Pittsburgh. Am I correct, sir? Is that closest
well,
to you?
We actually have 3 airports within an hour and 15 minutes of us. So we have Pittsburgh, closer to Youngstown, obviously, than the others. Akron has a nice, Akron Canton has a nice airport, as does Cleveland Hopkins is only about an hour and 15 minutes away. So
again,
we're surrounded by air traffic.
There you go. So kind of blessed. All right. So you've been with Ogden newspapers since 1986.
That's right.
I do remember, I hope I don't mind me telling stories. I came in and facilitated a meeting in Pittsburgh for Ogden. The gentleman who took me out to dinner showed me his offices at the ballpark. Am I discussing the right company here? Where the Pittsburgh ballpark, or go ahead?
Well, we don't really have offices in Pittsburgh. Our offices are in Wheeling, which is about an hour outside of Pittsburgh.
Right.
And but we also Ogden, the Nutting family also is the managing partner of the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Right. So he showed me the room where they do the recruiting, and he gave me a tour. It was fun. Yeah.
Right.
So that must be fun. I bet you get free Pirates tickets when you need
Pirate tickets are available to us. That's good. Yeah, it's not this year. Obviously, we're not this is a crazy year, as you know, about everything.
All right. So we're discussing a story of that region now. I was once asked my favorite names for newspapers. This was years ago, because there's so many Democrat gazettes, Inquirers, you know it, and I said there are 2 that come to mind. One is Elkhart, Indiana Truth. Love that name. And the other was the Youngstown, Ohio Vindicator. What a great name for a masthead. And it had been in the family, correct me if I'm wrong, Betty Jagnow had this paper, right?
Betty Brown Jagnow, and her son Mark Brown. The Brown family has had the family for a long time. Goes back to the Mag family back 150 years ago when they first took it over. So it's been a newspaper that was being published in Youngstown, Ohio for 150 years.
They also had, obviously grandfathered in cross ownership with a television station. Is that correct?
They still did. One of the few markets in America where the newspaper and the television station could be under the same ownership. Right,
because it was grandfathered. And they made the decision to shut down the paper. And this was just last year, correct? In 2019?
Actually, it was June 28th of 2019, the first year anniversary of that announcement just last week or a few days ago. And it kind of shocked the valley.
I still find that fascinating, and I didn't get the whole that they could not find a buyer, especially back then with Gatehouse just scooping anything up they could find. Excuse me, that was my own personal editorial on that. But others doing some scooping, and Ogden obviously must have taken a look, right? I mean, if they were trying to sell it.
I think anybody in America that was interested in buying a newspaper looked
Okay.
for a couple of years, and there just were inherent problems there that didn't wouldn't work for anyone else. I don't think in America or in the newspaper business except for us, and we had to do it on a very limited basis. We didn't just buy the operation. As you probably know, we bought the name of the newspaper, we bought the subscription list, and we bought the website.
So basically, you made that decision when they released the announcement quickly. I mean, you had to work quick, and the market did not have a gap. Am I correct? I mean, if I have the dates right, they shut down. What date did they physically stop printing?
Well, they stopped printing. They announced on the 28th of June they were going to quit printing on August the 31st.
Okay.
And so that gave like a 2-month window there, July and August. We immediately started talking with them, and we thought we had a deal to do just what we did on the 4th of July. But for some reason, it just kept. I think there were other people who showed up and said, let's talk about how we might be able to keep the Vindicator going the way it is and that kind of thing. So we didn't get to consummate the deal until the 22nd day of August.
Oh. All right. So this is like your life then must have been crazy. Let me take a pause here and discuss we, they. We, you being the regional publisher for Ogden, you have like a number of titles under you, but your physical office is in Warren, Ohio, and your core paper there is called, go ahead.
The Tribune Chronicle. It's been around for 200 years.
A daily.
It's a daily newspaper, 7-day daily. Right?
Okay. Staff size at the time?
About 120 or so employees total at the Tribune. At the time, that's full and part-time, and the Vindicator had 150.
Okay. Your other publications are based out of your office, or are they all in separate markets? I mean, was there a cluster out of your office right now that you're operating out of Warren?
No. So, our company doesn't really have the clusters so much. We might have, one state might be under a regional manager or something like that, but I have papers in Upper Peninsula, Michigan. I have papers in Saranac Lake, New York, and Gloversville, New York, and papers here in Ohio.
Okay, and you report in obviously to the Nutter family, to the Ogden newspapers.
Yeah, the Nutting family, right?
Nutting family. Now, the Tribune, the Vindicator, made their announcement. You just told us the history. It's an old, venerable title. They had a staff similar to yours. They were churning out daily news. Website traffic for Vindy.com was massive. Am I correct? It was a very viable website, if I remember.
A very viable website. It certainly was. The Tribune Chronicle was actually the first digital website in the county newspaper in the valley, but they came along and they had a very viable website operating, and we were very happy to take that over.
Oh yeah, over the years, many conventions you would see Vindy.com being. I mean, we're talking in the dark ages, 2003, 2004. Vindy.com was held up as a standard of how to show growth in a digital world, even before all the other issues that attacked the industry. So you got the website, you got the subscription list, and you got the name. That was it. Everything else, no. Did you pick up any of their team, any of their staff?
We ended up after they finally closed, we were able to hire several people for the newsroom, off of their team, and we were able to get some really, really good, strong reporting from that. We hired some of their circulation staff, and that's pretty much it.
Now, what did you do?
We've taken advertising rep.
The physical date where they stopped publishing again was the end of August, correct?
Right, August 31st.
And when did you send out your first print issue into that market?
September 1st.
Okay.
The next time.
And did you do it? Did you just give it as a gift to the entire subscription based on day one?
Actually, this was an interesting concept. And when we bought the subscription list, we agreed to fulfill their subscriptions.
Okay, without the revenue. They kept the money and you agreed to do it.
Right. But we started collecting revenue right off the bat from the 1 month subscribers who expired,
Right.
then the 3 months subscribers that expired, then the 6 months subscribers that expired. And we recently right now, we're just passing through some of the people who had bought annual subscriptions.
Excellent. The original publication was in combination with the Tribune, or was it a completely separate identity product?
Mike. It was interesting when we were in the middle of it after we finally were able to make the announcements. We had 11 work days actually to get ready for this.
11 days.
Yeah. And the part of that time was a time when we took their position at the Canfield Fair, one of the oldest county fairs in America. People would come up to us at the fair and they would say, now, are we going to get a real newspaper, or is this just going to be a page in your paper, or is this going to be a tabloid, or what are we going to get? And our answer was, we're going to get a real newspaper. And this was the first edition of the Vindicator that we put out on the first day. It was, I think, 32 pages.
Excellent.
Ready to go on Sunday morning.
And you had advertising already sold in it too?
We had advertising in it, and we had we had been planning the news product for quite some time, because we felt like we would pick up a Mahoning County edition, if nothing else, of the Tribune Chronicle. But we were fortunate to be able to throw out the Vindicator on the news.
Okay, so your county is Trumbull County, north. That county is Mahoning County. Warren is not a small city, correct? I mean, your circulations were almost equal. Am I right?
Well, they were a little larger than us. At one time they were 3 times larger than us. When I first came into the market in 1998, they were a newspaper 3 times larger than us, and we were about 40,000 circulation at the time. They were about 120.
Okay. At the time of the switch, your circulations were pretty even, though, correct? In the 20s.
We got 26,000 when we took their subscription list.
What was that number again? Excuse me?
26,000 subscribers when we took their subscription list. And we had about 18.
You must have picked up their distribution team, right? You didn't just have your team going into the other county, correct? Or...
Well, what we did was we contracted with about 80% of their carriers.
Excellent.
And we were able to get about 80 of them contracted in that 2-week period. 80% of them contracted in that 2-week period, which is up against 200 carriers. So we transitioned them into just picking up at our locations on the next day instead of where they picked up the day before for the Vindicator. And in that 11 days, we were able to secure a distribution center in the Youngstown market and Boardman, actually. And we were actually able to secure the tables for the carriers and get the whole thing done in 11 days. In fact, at 9 o'clock on the 31st that night, we were still getting things ready in that distribution center to do.
Well, I was assuming for 11 days you had cots in your building and you had coffee going 24 hours a day, and no one saw their spouses.
The beauty of this transition, and still have an excellent management team here at the Tribune Chronicle that was able to work and scale up to take this on.
Let me ask you.
Tremendous job.
Let me ask you about logistics now. Where did they print before you shut it down? Where were they?
They printed in downtown Youngstown at their facility.
Oh, I love that. Don't you? When you can actually smell the ink in the building. I mean, and you feel the rumble when you're in the building. Where do you print? We
print in our building in Warren, Ohio. And so we were able to just make the plates and print the paper right here. We trucked the papers to the distribution center, and but we also distribute some of them out of our building here in Warren because the markets are close together. I was about to ask,
next question, how long does it take to drive between Warren and Youngstown?
Well, it takes us about 40 minutes to get our truck to our distribution center.
That's not bad. Do you have an office? or a presence in Youngstown at all? Did you get a storefront there or anything?
We don't have a storefront, but we do have a distribution center and the presence, address presence in Boardman.
Are you spending a lot of time personally in Youngstown to get your face known as the publisher there? I mean,
Well, we were doing that until mid-March, when nobody wants to see anybody.
That's true. But
because of the COVID thing.
Your plan is to still be the fixture of the market, keep the Vindicator name there.
We absolutely do.
All right. So how people are feeling about the product? How many people did you lose?
Well, we are down now to we're printing about 22,000 and distributing 22,000 papers on Sunday. So we've lost about 4,000 of those, but some of those were conscious decisions on our part to not do. We're not doing any papers in Pennsylvania home delivery. We're selling a few single copies in Pennsylvania, but we cut off some routes in Pennsylvania that were costing us lots of money for,
of course,
subsidy and costs, and a few other things that we've had to consciously draw in to make things work the way they should work. So we've maintained about 80 or more than 80% of the subscribers, and the people are thrilled with our product. Interestingly enough, this project was bigger than anybody could possibly see unless you were here in the building. So we're in about 2 weeks of this project, and we realized we got to find a way to bill these customers that subscriptions are coming due. So about 3 weeks into the thing, we mailed out 9,000 bills of people who were in grace, and anybody in the newspaper business will know what the term in grace means. We sent out 9,100 or 9,200 bills, and lo and behold, 80-some hundred of those came back in a week.
Wow.
And we had 80-some hundred bills to open, take the checks out, get their accounts credited for their payment, and all that. So obviously, all of my staff learned how to use our circulation system. All of our staff learned how to, just about learned how to input payments and that kind of stuff. And but I personally opened a lot of envelopes with those checks in it, and the response was just unbelievable. The way people were saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for keeping our newspaper alive.
That is such an amazing story. Can I talk to you about advertising now? That's the side of the business, that I'm in. Mm-hmm. Your ad director is who in Warren?
My ad director is a gentleman named Harry Newman. Harry's a longtime newspaper man. Worked, interesting enough, years ago, started in the circulation department here at the Tribune. Left us, went to the Vindicator, worked down there for a while.
Really?
And then went to the Dix family and worked in their papers in the Ravenna market.
I know it well. Andrew Dix and the family.
Right. Yeah. And about, I think 6 years ago now, I got word that he was looking maybe to change jobs. And lo and behold, he lives in our neighborhood, driving to Ravenna to work. He's come to work for us, does an outstanding job. He's a really nice man, and it comes across when he deals with customers and his staff.
Now, do you have sellers that just cover the Youngstown market, and are those sellers based there? Did you pick up or inherit any of their sales team and bring them in?
We hired one of their sales team, and this lady lives in the market. And then we had a Mahoning County salesperson before,
of course,
for the Tribune. So they are picking up the whole deal. So we have two and looking for a third salesperson that's working that market right now.
My next question is an obvious one. How many of your advertisers are now in both editions? How much let me ask you the question first. If I'm a heating and air conditioning guy with 8 trucks, would I be in both markets, or are they ancillary, or are they combined or separate?
Actually, the markets have almost always been separate.
Really?
Yes.
40
And,
minutes apart, and you don't have well,
actually, they're not 40 minutes apart. We're 13 miles from Warren to Youngstown. But to get a truck from here to the distribution center in Boardman,
just 13 miles. What is the demarc? Why is that? I mean, there's not one big regional hospital between both of them. It's all just kind of separate social ecosystems, tribal.
Right. Yeah. For years it was kind of tribal, and for years the Tribune Chronicle, even before I came here, tried to penetrate that market. And it's so hard to sell papers in somebody else's market, and it was very hard for us. But we view it as separate markets, and we view them as separate papers, and we sell them as separate papers. You have to buy each paper. You can buy both papers, but there's the same rate for both papers. So we separated it so that we can maximize our revenue because we have two papers instead of one.
Interesting. Only 13 miles apart, but separate. In other words, not one major hospital system, not one major mall.
We actually have two major hospital systems, and one of them primarily is based here. And then the other one has more hospitals in both markets, and they'll advertise both ways. The ones who advertise both ways are few.
Is there a commuting populace that goes in opposite directions or not?
Somewhat, but it's not huge, I don't think. I mean, there's probably more people who live in Trumbull County and work in Mahoning County than there is the other way around.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. That must make it difficult for the TV and radio stations in a way.
But it's working well for us to have two papers, and it gives us an opportunity. When I first came here, they were trying to get into the Mahoning County market, and a lot of they had dedicated a lot of staff to it. And what came back to me was, we really don't want to read about all the stuff in Youngstown in the Tribune Chronicle. We don't really want that to be the lead story in the newspaper 3 or 4 days a week. So we backed off of that and said, we're gonna not do that. We're not gonna force Mahoning County onto the Tribune.
Well, that was going to be my next. I mean, I have questions here. Do you foresee one edition for both? The answer is obviously no way, Jose. You're going to keep them separate, correct?
Well, that's a thing that we have started out as. I can't say no way, Jose, because this market or this business is changing. So
obviously,
no. But there was a lot of people saying, "Well, why don't you just put on one newspaper? Just put on
exactly."
One but the two newspapers gives us a chance to be two real newspapers. We changed this, and if we talk about editorial a little bit, we changed the stories. I mean, we have probably 20-some high schools in that market and 20-some high schools in this market. So we can only put one of those teams at the top of one sports page. So we decided we're doing two sports pages. We'll have the Youngstown schools at the top of those sports pages, and we'll have the Warren area schools at the top of our sports pages. And we're giving people what they want as opposed to what everybody thinks would be the easy way, just put out one newspaper. But I think our approach is satisfying a lot more people.
We're getting little glitches here, and I was trying to ask you a question when it comes to this marketing effort of a joint market, separate markets. A TV station at a Youngstown is covering the entire area, but it must be hard if that's the way it is, because they only attract TV, and radio attracts regional advertisers. But if I'm only talking to an audience in Youngstown, why would I pay for the audience in Warren? You see, you have that advantage, don't you?
Right.
Where you're hyper-local products for both markets.
Right. We're able to sell advertising to only to people in their market. They don't have to buy another market to get.
Exactly. Is there a TMC product associated with any of these?
We have what we call a Sunday Select product that we deliver to 12,500 people, which is delivered to select homes in the neighborhoods that we want to deliver into.
Across both markets now?
No, we only do that in Warren at this point in time.
But you may consider doing something down south.
Well, the only real reason, and this is one of the flies in the ointment, you might say, the only real reason we wouldn't do that is what's happening, and that is the preprint business is just a shadow of what it used to be.
Right.
And the only real reason to do a free product like that is preprints.
Right.
That is the real struggle in the advertising business right now. I think most wants out of the preprint business. Most advertisers want out of the preprint business.
You inherited their website. You're keeping them as separate websites, correct? Vindy is separate than yours. Do you have one web team servicing both? But let me ask the next question. Are you on one CMS system between the two? Is it a little clunky? How are you getting this all organized?
Our CMS system is operated by our copy desk. And so the people who put the Vindicator out, put Vindy.com stories up and maintain that each day, and as do the people in the Tribune Chronicle. So they're separate websites. In the same way, we're trying to make sure that people get what they want on their website, as opposed to getting a lot of stuff they don't necessarily want. So we're having to make those judgments every day, what goes on both, what stays on each one. But we have two separate. Vindicator website now, had over 1.7 million page views last month.
Wow.
And Tribune Chronicle has about 1.2 million or something. So we have quite a few page views between the two websites, and they're separate.
Ogden's philosophy, or I'm assuming the Ogden philosophy on your web audience, is it metered, shut down, or wide open? What do you guys preach? Was wide open until about 3 months ago. We put the metered wall back up on Ogden, the Ogden paper,
on both.
On both. So the Vindy site was wide open until 3 months ago, right. And now it's a meter to how many pages to get? 3, 5, 8? What do you give them?
I think we're at 5 right now.
5, okay. And your site was always metered when you started this?
We had actually had a paywall years ago, and then we took it down, and we were free and open, and then we went to the metered wall about 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
How did that play out with the loyal audience on Vindy.com when they realized they'd have to start paying to see the pages? Is everything okay?
Well, we've had people who still like to have things free.
Of course.
And we have to explain to them that we've never really understood free and how to make a living with free. And but the thing that we use to combat it also is people have always paid to read our news. Our newspaper has been a paid product forever, and people gladly pay for it every month. And so, we feel it's worth it, and that. But they seem to take it pretty well. We've had a few people who complain about that, but not a large, overwhelming.
What's it like to work at Ogden? How do you feel about your parent company in the world of downsizing and I guess consolidation and hedge funds? I'm giving you a chance to say something nice to your boss now. Go ahead.
Well, my boss knows how I feel. It's a great company to work for. I work for a guy who knows this business inside and out, and he's been aggressive. We've been still acquiring properties when a lot of people weren't. We were acquiring properties, and we're still acquiring them. We look at every newspaper I think that comes available, and the company has been solid. I've been with them now for roughly 30 some years. That's just been solid. There's never been a time when anybody's panicked about is their job in jeopardy. At the management level anyway, but obviously in the last couple of years, things have changed and we've downsized quite a bit like everybody else. But our philosophy is we have to be a profitable company in order to keep newspapers going. So we do that just like everybody else does.
Yeah, but your philosophy is not the same as a Gannett right now. You're allowed to generate hyper-local news and not make it more regional. That's why I was probing the question. I mean, I'm trying to get you to say the words that I heard from the previous podcast interview was Idaho Press, mm-hmm. when they went in and took over and built a 40% increase in circulation when the Statesman, owned by McClatchy, said, well, we're just going to save money and print 3 hours away. Thus, with the deadline issue, if you understand. And he kept saying, news is first, news is first. I know the Ogden philosophy, they're letting you have the resources you need to do your core job.
Well, yeah, well, I am a huge advocate. I come from, my background is editorial.
I know you were actually in Dunn, you worked in Dunn, right? North Carolina as managing editor, sir. Is that correct?
What's that?
You were in Dunn, North Carolina?
I was a managing editor in Dunn, North Carolina.
They're a client of mine. I love that town. That's great. Anyway,
so you know Hoover and Bart, or you knew Hoover? Probably.
I know him. Okay, but I'm just saying your background is editorial. So go ahead, finish the thought. I'm sorry.
So my background is editorial. So I'm a huge proponent of making sure we have a good newspaper, and that's why we're putting out separate newspapers. I could take the easy route
Of course.
and say all the pages are going to be the same.
Right.
Frankly, all the pages are different in our papers, except maybe for the TV page that we do. Even the editorial page is somewhat different every day, and those kind of things are important to a newspaper. People want a newspaper that is their newspaper, not somebody else's newspaper. So I am very interested in hyper-local news, very interested in making sure we're covering the Mahoney County news as well as we're covering the Trumbull County news. And we're doing a great job. And we have 2 or 3 really good stories on the front page this morning that people will see, wouldn't recognize as real journalism if they didn't see it before.
Well, let's you're also managing 2 million page views a month, across 2 million plus across both markets, and you proudly say the word newspaper. Right. You know, of course, that some organizations have dropped the word paper. News Media Alliance, International News Media. Of course, Dean Ridings, newspapers.org. Do you feel comfortable saying the word newspaper, even though you obviously have a strong digital focus? I mean, what is your philosophy on that?
Well, my philosophy is that the newspaper industry, and I've known, I told you earlier, I had 2 stints with United Press International, and the only real reporting ever has been done by newspapers. Every day, newspapers do reporting, and people feed off of that. As I was driving to work this morning, I heard a local talk show host on a radio station talk about 3 of the stories on our front page. I'm a real newspaper man. I'm disappointed that our state organization changed its name from the Ohio Newspaper Association. So if I use the word newspapers, because I've been a newspaper guy for 50 some years, Mike.
Yeah, but I'm publisher of Editor and Publisher magazine. I'm proud of that 140-year-old masthead, but you can still have a strong digital presence and be innovative without feeling like you have to walk away from a brand. That's something that I speak about if there's ever a convention. I was doing speeches on this. Remember, the Vindy.com site has always been respected as a leader. There's nothing, I like the way you refer to your core product with pride, even though you have a strong digital presence. I mean, after all, we still dial phones, right? I mean.
Yeah, but we wouldn't have a strong digital presence if we didn't have a strong newspaper to create the content. I
agree, but reporting is still reporting. Do you ever release? Do you release first press first? Do you sometimes release a story digitally before it gets in the paper?
No, we have to release a lot of the stories digitally first, because we're in a market where there are three television stations, 20 radio stations, that kind of thing. That the television stations have strong websites as well, and we have to try to. We can't be too far behind those people, or we really need to be in front of them when we can. I think the point is, my website doesn't do any reporting.
Right.
The newspaper does the reporting for the websites. So it's a symbiotic relationship that is heavily dependent upon the newspaper.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Charles, I want to tell you how great this story is. It's nice to talk to people that are still bullish on the industry and successful. I mean, I know we're all going through our challenges right now. But it sounds like you're a guy that keeps your head to the ground, knows your core competencies, and constantly strives to keep your staff motivated. You can do a shout out if you want to understand. Brenda, your editor-in-chief, is amazing, and she's doing a great job.
She has done an amazing job. She has put together a staff up there and manages a staff that is covering a staff that's 30 people compared to the Vindicator had 30 people on its own. So we've been able to consolidate the 30 people and still cover almost everything because she's managed the thing tremendously. We were able now, there was times when the Vindicator sent somebody and we sent somebody to a city council meeting. So we're able not to have to do that duplication now, so we can do things with less people. But we still are covering the same things that people wanted in their newspaper when the Vindicator was owned by the Brown family. Very, very respected newspaper for many, many years. And we come along and we're given the opportunity to succeed them, and we're appreciative of that. But Brenda is an outsider who has really kept the news product strong. And I've said this many times. If we hadn't put out a good newspaper on the first day, our problems that we had with distribution, our problems we had with billing, some of those things would have caused the project to collapse under its own weight. But the newspaper was so good and strong that people wanted it. They would call and say, look, I just want my newspaper, and I had one guy tell me, he says, I normally probably wouldn't have taken this kind of grief. He's had trouble with this delivery, had trouble with the billing, but he says, the paper's too good. I can't not buy it. So
you're a gentleman and a scholar.
He gets a lot of credit for that.
Kudos to the whole team. If someone wants to talk to you personally or send you an email to get some advice or learn more, what is your email address, Charles?
Email address is cjarvis, Jarvis, at Trib Today, TRIB, today.com. And happy to talk to anyone or communicate with anyone and be any help I can possibly do.
And the website is vindy.com. Charles, we wish you well. We wish you health, you and the entire staff there. Stay healthy. We need you in this industry. And you take care, sir.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate the opportunity.